Hello everyone, a very warm welcome to all of you. My name is Dr. Mahipal Singh Rathod and in this video I will be discussing the Cold War. Before beginning, let me remind you that the pendrive and tablet courses of Study IQ are available for bank and SSC examinations. You can visit our website studyiq.in or call this number to know more about the pendrive courses and to order. So let me begin with telling you what exactly was the Cold War. So it was a state of geopolitical tension after the Second World War between two power blocs. One was the Eastern Bloc with Soviet Union at its head and the other satellite states. I will tell you which are those. And on the other hand, there was the Western Bloc, which United States was the leader and its NATO allies. So basically it's a geopolitical tension. It's a state of geopolitical tension and not an outright war. So this is a map of Europe during the Cold War. Now Cold War went on in the entire world, first of all, okay? Don't think that it went on only in Europe. But the divisions were very much stark in Europe. So see, all these countries in blue color, England, France, Spain, Turkey, Greece, Italy, West Germany, Belgium, Netherlands, Norway. These are all part of NATO, that is North Atlantic Treaty Organization. So USA plus NATO formed the Western Bloc. They were on one side, and on the other side we have Soviet Union, that is USSR, and other states. It's satellite states. That satellite state means those countries which are almost under the control of Soviet Union. They will do as the Soviet Union says. So those are the countries like Poland, East Germany, Czechoslovakia, Hungary, Romania and Bulgaria. So this is the division of Europe. Now when was the Cold War fought? It is said that the Cold War began in 1947, but some historians say it is 45 or some say even before that, and it was up till 89 or 91. Now don't worry about the dates because it is said that there is no fixed beginning or no fixed end for Cold War. It was simply an era, okay, and not a time frame. You cannot say that it began on 15th August 1945 and ended on 22 December 1991. No, this is not the case. It is an era, it is a time period in history. So you can say approximately the second half of 20th century. Now the word era reminds me, please write in comments who is the author of the book An Era of Darkness. It has come out recently and the author is a very well-known personality in Indian politics. Now why is it called the Cold War? Mainly because there was no direct combat or fighting between the USSR and its allies and the USA plus allies. So no direct warfare in between them, okay. But there were lots and lots of proxy wars all around the world, like in Korea, Vietnam, Afghanistan. What is a proxy war? It means that if the fight is in between A and B, so they will not fight directly. What they will do is they will find two countries C and D which are at war with each other. Now A will support C and B will support D. So in fact A and B are have their entire power behind these countries C and D. So it on the outside to the world it seems like C and D are fighting, but actually who is fighting? A and B. It is the power and the weapons of A and B. So that is proxy war. Now I'll tell you the other characteristics of the Cold War. First was there was a huge ideological difference in both the groups. One was a capitalist group. All the countries were capitalist like USA, UK, France. Their economies were different. On the other hand, we had the communist economy or the communist political system. So even the political governance system is different and the economic system is also different. So their reason of fighting is not some territory or some boundary dispute. No, these are large ideological reasons or differences. There was a big atmosphere. There was an atmosphere of huge political distrust. Now no country believed the other one directly. So it might be that someone is saying that okay, in UN we will support you in this vote, but you can never take anyone for their word during this Cold War. Why? Because you never knew what political interest they had from one bloc or the other, and such was the atmosphere that whenever they tried to call a peace delegation to stop this Cold War, it almost always failed. So peace was very difficult because of the political distrust. Then there was arms race. The military spending of both the groups was very high. USA and USSR spent a large portion of their economy on weapons, all kinds of weapons like tanks, aeroplanes, fighter jets, and obviously men in the army and ships. Large number of ships were made by USA to patrol all the oceans of the world to keep its dominance. USSR made a large number of submarines and so on. Then there was espionage. Many famous spying stories. Espionage means spying, okay? Trying to gain intelligence on your enemy. So the spying went on at a large scale. Both the countries had large spy networks. On one hand, we had the CIA, and on the other hand, we had the KGB of USSR. So CIA of America and KGB of USSR. Both these agencies, secret agencies, tried to do spying on each other's country. Most of the movies that you see, like the old James Bond films, you can see that James Bond is almost always on a mission against the USSR. He never goes on a mission against France or UK because they were allies. He will also never go against a mission on India because India was neutral during the Cold War. So he will always go against USSR, Hungary, or some Eastern Bloc country. Then there was psychological warfare. There was large amount of propaganda by both the sides to make sure that they were considered positive and the other side was considered as negative. Americans even called the Soviet Union as an evil empire, that we are doing God's work and Soviet Union is a godless evil empire and so on. It is not so, okay? Even USSR had normal people living and people who are being governed by certain other people whose policies were different. It is not that they are being ruled by the Satan and the USA is ruled by God, no. But then this was all propaganda and psychological warfare. Then there was brinkmanship. What do you mean by brinkmanship? Brinkmanship means that whenever the situation is tense, you do not try to calm it down. What you do is you take it further. So for example, in Cuban Missile Crisis, people knew that this situation could lead to war, but both USA and USSR did not back down until the very last moment, when even if one person had fired a single missile, it could have meant nuclear war for the whole world. So they took the situation to the last point, to the breaking point, okay? No one lowered their weapons, no one called their armies back. So this happened many times in Cold War. It was a very important feature of Cold War, brinkmanship. Even today this happens. For example, in North Korea, the current leader Kim Jong-un, he's a dictator. What he does is he fires missiles again and again on Japan, near Japan, South Korea and USA. So they always warn North Korea that you stop these missile tests, otherwise we will send an army against you. But still he's not stopping. So he'll cool down for 2 years, 3 years, but then again he will fire another missile. So one day such kind of behavior will lead to war, can lead to war. It is very risky. This is called brinkmanship. Then finally, nuclear capability. The entire reason this war remained cold and did not become hot was nuclear weapons. Both the sides had lots and lots of nuclear missiles. So many missiles, in fact, that they could have destroyed the entire population of Earth, not just one time, but many times over. So this is the amount of nuclear weapons both of them had. It was the first time in human history that any two powers had nuclear weapons. Before this, in the known history, in the past 3 or 4,000 years that we know about, no one has had so much power. No country, no king, no kingdom has had such a weapon that they can completely destroy the earth. So this was a very typical and new feature of warfare. Now I will talk about the beginnings of the Cold War. Some historians say that the roots of the Cold War lay in Russian Revolution. So it did not begin after 1945, the end of World War II, but during the revolution itself. See, in 1917, after the Russian Revolution, there was a civil war in Russia. There were two sides. One was the whites and the other were the reds. The reds were communists. So USA, France and UK, they supported this whites. And because of this, the reds have always had some mistrust against these countries. Ultimately, who won the civil war? The reds, the communists, in 1922, and they established the USSR. So Lenin, he was the leader. of the Reds, he established USSR, and the people who fought on the other side, they were supported by these countries. So these people already had some kind of problem with them. After that, for many years, most of the countries, these capitalist countries, they did not recognize USSR. They did not recognize a new Russia. Finally, in 1933, diplomatic relations were established between USA and Soviet Union. Remember, USSR is also called as the Soviet Union. And by the time when Lenin died, after that, Stalin became the leader of USSR, and he slowly became a dictator. Okay, he became a complete dictator. The entire government system of USSR functioned under him. Whatever he said happened. Whichever general he did not like, he just killed him. Whichever minister he did not like, he just put him in jail. So he became a dictator very soon after assuming power. This is Joseph Stalin. But when World War II started, both USA and USSR, they came together to fight against Nazi Germany and Imperial Japan, and they were part of the Allies. They defeated the Axis powers in World War II, and right after that, in 1945, USSR tried to exert its communist influence throughout Central and Eastern Europe. Why was that? See, in World War I, Germany attacked Russia. Again, in World War II, Germany attacked Russia. So see, Soviet Union wanted its safety. They wanted a buffer between Germany and Russia, Soviet Union. So they said that these countries should be under our influence, and we will form a buffer between Germany and us. So this is the reason that they wanted to exert power in all these countries, and they did so. Why? Because they already had their army in all these countries. Their army had marched, defeating Hitler's army, and they had reached Germany up till here. So all these countries of Poland, Lithuania, Latvia, Estonia, Romania, they were all under the control of Soviet army. And on the other hand, from here, USA, UK and French armies had come over. So this Western Germany was under the control of these three Western countries. So they tried to establish communist governments in in Central and Eastern Europe. On the other hand, USA tried to exert its influence in France, West Germany, Japan, Korea, and they set up leaders who supported capitalism. So you can see that there is a tension in between them, because USA has this area under its influence. On the other hand, Soviet Union has this area under its influence, and they are both vying for power, even in Japan, Korea and other places. Now, this is a very famous statement by Winston Churchill, who was the ex-Prime Minister of Britain in 1946. He said that an iron curtain has descended over the continent. It means that Europe is now divided by an iron curtain. Okay, it is a wall. It is an iron wall that is separating the continent in two. Why? Because on this side we have all the countries that are under the influence of Western nations, USA, and on this side we have USSR and all these countries, Poland, Czechoslovakia, Hungary, Romania and Bulgaria, where they have established communist governments, and this is East Germany. So what did USA do to combat USSR's growing influence? What kind of policies did US adopt? First was containment policy. Now the president of USA at that time was Harry S. Truman. Truman said that we have to contain communism. What do you mean by containing communism? It means that communism is spreading. Okay, USSR is spreading its influence from its boundaries to other countries. So at some point of time, we will have to contain it. Otherwise, tomorrow they can make Italy into a communist country. They can also, West Germany can become a communist country. So to stop this, we have to contain it somewhere. And for that, we have to take a stand. We have to stop it somewhere, taking aggressive policy. Now, what was that aggressive policy? That was Truman Doctrine. One was this containment, and then there was this Truman Doctrine. Truman Doctrine said that we will support any country in the world which is against communism, and whichever country is threatened by communism, we will support them economically, politically and militarily. So they did that in Vietnam, Korea and many other places, where they sent their own army, or if they did not send army, they sent money, they sent weapons to fight against communism. Okay, so for example, there was this country of Cuba neighboring USA. Now Cuba was receiving help from America against the communist rebels that they had. Okay, so this is in this way Truman said that we will help all the countries anywhere in the world. So also USA propped up many anti-communist governments, many anti-communist dictators all over the world against communism. For example, in Chile, they supported a dictator called Augusto Pinochet. Okay, Augusto Pinochet. So they supported Augusto Pinochet and they helped him topple the democratically elected government at that time, because they feared that the current government is communist or it is turning socialist or communist. So they helped many kind of governments like this in the entire world. They also helped many dictators, and this is why many people in the world at that time said that this is not correct on USA's part. You are a democracy, you should support democratic governments, but US government, especially the CIA, they did not help democratic governments anywhere. If those democratic governments were communist, they were toppled with CIA's help and they put up dictators in their place. Now this is a map. It shows that how the communism had to be stopped. So according to USA, communism had to be stopped or contained in these three areas. One was this Europe, the theater of Europe. The other was this Central Asia here, and the other one was East Asia. So it had to be stopped here. So you can see all the major conflicts of Cold War happened somewhere along here. So Afghanistan, okay, Korea, Vietnam, Vietnam. So all the major conflicts happened along this axis. So this is where communism had to be contained. This entire gray shaded area is the area of communist influence. So here you had USSR, then here was China, and then there are all these small countries in Eastern Europe that are communist. So you might think right now that why would countries want to become communist? Why is there such a threat? Why is USA so much worried about communism? Communism is a failed ideology, but that is today, because today you know that communism has many problems and USSR is no more, and today we know that communism over the 50 years there were many problems and most of the communist countries failed, and if they are succeeding today like China, they have opened up their markets and they behave more or less like a capitalist country, especially in the economic sphere. But at that point of time in 1950s and 1960s, no one knew that. At that time communism was a very attractive philosophy. The philosophy of Karl Marx had attracted people from all over the world. Okay, people were very much fond of this communist ideology. It was very attractive to many people. Even in India, we had in 1959 the world's first democratically elected communist government was in Kerala in India. The Communist Party in India was very strong. Even in many other countries, the Communist Party was very much strong. It was fighting elections, and you must understand that. So it was a very formidable force, and it had to be feared by USA. So moving on now. This is a propaganda poster by US. You can see here, it's your choice. Where do you draw the line against communist aggression? You can see the red color going into India, Vietnam, Southeast Asia. So they said that if we don't draw the line here, the entire Asia can become communist. Australia can become communist. Indonesia, Malaysia, all these countries can become communist if we do not stop communism somewhere. So now coming to the events of Cold War, the first and most important event is the Berlin blockade of 1948. What do you mean by blockade? Blockade means stopping the supply lines, supply routes. So if this is a city, this was Berlin, then Berlin was blockaded from all the sides so that no one could go Berlin, no one could reach there, no trains, no buses, no supplies, nothing. Okay, the people of Berlin were isolated. Why did USSR do it? Because it wanted the control over entire Berlin, and they had control only over half of the Berlin. Look here in this map. So this is 1948, West Germany and East Germany. Remember, they are not independent countries as of in 1948. This dark green area was occupied by France, UK and USA. And this East Germany, light green area, is occupied by USSR. Here is the city of Berlin. This you can see here. Again, the city is also divided into West Berlin and East Berlin. West is controlled by UK, France and England and USA, I'm sorry. And East Berlin is controlled by USSR. So USSR wanted this West Berlin also. They wanted entire city of Berlin so then they can control one of the largest cities in Europe. And it is a power center, it is very important. But they did not want to give it away. So USA, UK, they airdropped supplies for 1 year to break the blockade. Since there was no train and no roads, see earlier they could easily, they had a railway line going from West Germany to Berlin. So they made, the supplies could easily reach Berlin, West Berlin earlier. Although this was USSR controlled territory since the past 3 years from 45 to 48. But now they had to bring in everything via aeroplane. So almost 2 lakh flights took place to reach, so that supplies could reach Berlin. And finally the blockade stopped. USSR lifted the blockade because they understood that it was not successful. Aeroplanes could easily bring in all the materials that was required. And in 1949 Germany officially split into 2 countries. So both these countries gained independence. West Germany and East Germany became 2 different and independent countries. But again, East Germany was a satellite state of USSR. It did whatever its communist masters from Moscow said. And West Germany was allied with the capitalist countries of USA, UK and France. It was also a part of NATO. It was a very good ally of NATO. This Berlin blockade led to many things. Firstly, it led to formation of NATO, because people in the West now, they understood that we have to act together. We are threatened. This kind of thing can happen again. So we need to form a military alliance. So North Atlantic Treaty Organization, a military organization, was formed in 1949. Some other events also happened in 1949, like China fell under communist rule. There was a civil war going on in China since many years, and finally the People's Republic of China under communist rule was established, and the earlier government under Chiang Kai-shek, which now retreated to Taiwan, and it is called Republic of China, that is Taiwan. You can watch my video on One China policy to know about these 2 Chinas in detail. Then USSR detonated its first nuclear weapon. Until now, only America had nuclear weapon. They used it in 1945 against Japan at Hiroshima and Nagasaki. So till now, they were the only superpower having this nuclear weapon. So they said to many countries that you come join NATO, or you can come join us. No one can threaten your security because we have a nuclear bomb. If anyone threatens you, we can simply drop a nuclear bomb on them. But now the situation was balanced. Both the sides had a nuclear bomb. Also in 1949, by 1949, many communist governments had come up in East and Central Europe. As I told you, all those countries of Poland, Hungary, Czechoslovakia, USSR had established communist and satellite states over there. The governments were communist and they are called satellite states because they all their foreign policy and major foreign policy issues were controlled by Moscow. They were controlled by USSR. So they did not do anything without taking permission from USSR, and also they were very good allies, and they stuck together for next 45 years. So by 1950, the contours of this world war were becoming clear. This also was a world war, but at another level. The scale was different. Now these 2 sides were at war without open conflict, and most of the countries were getting allied with one bloc or the other. It was an ideological war. It was between capitalism, consumerism and democracy on one side, and on the other hand you have communism, socialism and totalitarianism. Why totalitarianism? Because see, Stalin was a dictator. Totalitarian means dictator, and that also the worst kind of dictator. That it is not a simple dictator who has some form of government going on. No. Totalitarianism means a dictatorship like Stalin, where everything is under the control of one man, one person. And so these ideological conflict was going on, and by 1950 it was very much clear to everyone in the world that there is a big conflict going on, and this is a Cold War. Also, there was now the nuclear angle to this conflict. Since 1949, USSR also had its own nuclear weapon. It was the first time in human history that a weapon so potent that it could kill lakhs and lakhs of people. It could kill millions of people at one time in one instant. Such a weapon was possessed by any power. Till now, no power in the entire human history had such kind of weapons. Now, this was a deterrent. What do you mean by deterrent? Deterrent is anything that will stop an enemy from attacking you. For example, if you are going out with a gun in your hand, no one will attack you because they can see that you have that gun. So that gun will be a deterrent for others not to attack you. Similarly, if someone has nuclear weapons, some country has nuclear weapons, that is a big deterrent to not attack them. So even if it's a very small country, now let's say if North Korea has nuclear weapon. Now even though North Korea is a very small nation compared to USA, but still USA has not attacked it since many years because they have that doubt that if North Korea has nuclear weapons and if they drop it on civilians, what can happen? Many people can die, lakhs and millions will die. So this is called deterrent. This is the main reason that the Cold War never turned hot. Then annihilation. The human race could become extinct if nuclear war broke out. This was a risk that had not been there previously. Also, the development of ballistic missiles that could carry nuclear bombs over thousands of kilometers was a very important factor. Earlier, nuclear weapons were not missile borne, okay? For example, in Hiroshima and Nagasaki, what they did was that nuclear bomb was put on a plane by people, then that plane flew from a ship over the city of Hiroshima and people dropped the bomb from the plane onto the city directly. So for that you need to take the plane above the city. But now that was not required. So if this is America and this is USSR, they both of them developed ballistic missiles that could go from here to here like this, okay? And these missiles could take nuclear weapons on them. So you don't even need to fly a plane, just launch this missile and one city here will be destroyed. Now the thing is, there was not just one place where nuclear weapons were stored. Now for a USSR had at least 10 or 15 sites where there were multiple nuclear weapons. So if USA attacked this city, let's say Moscow, they could have launched another missile from here on USA. So if any one country attacks, it is not that they will win. If USA attacked Russia, then USSR, then USSR will attack from another place. So this makes sure that both of them will be destroyed. So this is called mutually assured destruction or MAD. Now comes the first proxy war of the Cold War. That was the Korean War from 1950 to 53. After the end of World War II, the USSR Soviet armies had captured the area of North Korea, and from south the American armies had captured the area of South Korea. There was this line 38 parallel that was dividing them both. So after some time, in North Korea, a communist government was established, and in the south, a capitalist government was established. The North Korea attacked South, and with the help of USSR and China, which both came to its help, they fought with South Korea, and towards South Korea, USA and other allied countries came for its help. The war was a stalemate. No one won, no one could push back the boundaries much. And finally the war stopped with both the armies somewhere here only along the 38 parallel, and it was a stalemate. Okay, so this was the Korean War. So after the Korean War and just before the Korean War, this domino theory came out. So the US policy makers, what they said was that these are dominoes, these communist countries. So if one falls, the other will also fall into communism. For example, if China became communist, then its neighbors Korea, its then neighboring Vietnam, Laos, Cambodia, all of them will become communist. And it happened. See, North Korea, North Vietnam, Laos, Cambodia, all these were already communist countries. Okay, so they feared that if these are not stopped somewhere, then Thailand, Malaysia, Indonesia, Burma, India, Australia, all of these countries will also become communist. So at some point you have to take a stand to stop this domino. And where did they take the stand? They took it in Vietnam, they took it in Korea, and that is why wars happened here, to stop communism. So this is a domino theory. So now we will talk about the various decades of Cold War. So beginning with 1950s, this is the time of escalation of Cold War. Okay, the Cold War increased to great heights in 1950s and 60s. In 1953, Joseph Stalin died and Nikita Khrushchev became the new leader of USSR. On the other hand, there were elections in USA and Eisenhower became the new president. Harry S. Truman retired. In 1955, Warsaw Pact was formed by USSR against the NATO. So both of them were military alliances. Okay, what is the basic funda of these alliances? It means that, see, if there are 10 countries here and there are 10 countries here, if this one country attacks this one country of here, all of these will come to defend this one. On the other hand, vice versa, if all of these countries together attack just one country here, then all of them will collectively defend this one country. So this is basically security in numbers. For example, if suddenly one day the Soviet Union decided to attack Italy, so Italy will not be alone. Countries like France, UK, USA, all the NATO members, they will come to help Italy. And similarly, if one day all the NATO countries decide to attack Poland, then all the Warsaw Pact countries will come to help Poland. Also, there was a space race going on in 1950s. What do you mean by space race? There was a race to reach the first milestones in the space exploration. So the first satellite and the first person in space was sent by USSR, but the first country to reach to the moon was USA. Okay, so initially USSR was very much ahead in the space race. They sent the first satellite Sputnik, the first person Yuri Gagarin, also the first dog into space. But finally USA reached the moon first in 1969 and USSR never had a moon program. And after that the space race became very much dominated by USA. Today NASA is the premier agency in space exploration in the world. Now also during this 1950s, USSR backed many groups, many rebel groups, many guerrilla groups to overthrow the colonial governments in Asia, Latin America and Africa. So all these places had colonial governments. For example, Vietnam was a colony of France. So there they helped the guerrilla, they helped the people, local people of Vietnam to fight a guerrilla war against the French colonialists. And in this manner, the first Indochina War was fought. Also, they did this in Africa where many rebels were supported by USSR. Okay, so they sent them money, weapons, training was given to the fighters and so on. Similarly, USA also tried to do this, but there was some problem. What USA did was that wherever there was communist governments coming to power, they supported undemocratic governments and dictators to stop this. So they did it in Iran, Guatemala, Dominica, Chile, Brazil and many other countries. This was all done by the help of CIA. Okay, CIA was the agency, was this secret service agency of America. And for example, in Iran in 1953, they toppled a democratically elected government. And the reason was that democratically elected government was trying to nationalize all the oil reserves, and they put up Reza Shah Pahlavi, an old ruler, to rule the country, Iran. Okay, and also they did it in Brazil, like they toppled the government in Brazil, helping the protesters and so on. So USA got very much a bad rep in the entire world because they were helping undemocratic people come to power. They were toppling democratic governments. Okay, and they were helping dictators to stay in power or come to power. So on the one hand, USA was such a big supporter of democracy and it used to give lectures to everyone that there should be democratic reforms, that USSR does not have democracy, we have democracy. On the other hand, they were doing such kind of things all over the world. But this was all to stop communism so that communist people do not come to power in these countries. Okay, remember Truman Doctrine. Then in 1956, there was a revolution in Hungary. Hungary, as you remember, it was a satellite state in Eastern Europe and Central Europe. So in Hungary, students did a revolution and they toppled the government, the communist government, and they came to power. But after few days only, USSR sent its army and they crushed this Hungarian revolution very badly. Thousands of people were killed. Many lakhs of people fled Hungary to save their lives. And again, communist rule was established. And this was done by Soviets. They crushed it very badly. Okay, they sent tanks to the capital. They sent tanks to the universities. And this was a very violent crackdown on the protesters. People all over the world were shocked because USSR had meddled in the internal affairs of a satellite nation so badly. Then in 56 only there was the Suez Crisis. What is Suez Crisis? See, Suez Canal is in Egypt. It connects the Mediterranean Sea to the Red Sea. It is a very important channel for shipping. So Suez Canal did not belong to Egypt. Okay, England was controlling it because they had built it many years ago, 80 years ago. But by 1956, Egypt government said that we want control of Suez Canal. We want to nationalize it. But UK said no. So Egypt took control of this Suez Canal forcibly. So UK, France and Israel, all three attacked Egypt. Okay, they attacked Egypt. They took control of Suez Canal. But what happened was that USSR started supporting Egypt, and USSR threatened that if these three countries do not take back their armies, we will come to help Egypt. So USA forced all these three that take back your armies. I do not want a war with USSR just over the issue of Suez Canal. We do not want a nuclear war. If USSR comes into this fight, it could go nuclear. So all these three countries pulled back their armies, and finally Suez Crisis was over. Also in 1950s, the war in Indochina was raging on. What was Indochina? Indochina is in Southeast Asia, the area of Vietnam, Laos and Cambodia. This is combined called Indochina. This was a French colony, okay. And after World War II, the local people did not want the French there, so they started fighting the French colonial government. And this French government was helped by USA and UK, and on the other hand, the local people were helped by USSR and China. So now I've shown you the two groups, the Eastern Bloc and the Western Bloc. Now there were other countries as well which became non-aligned countries. Okay, so this is the latest map of non-aligned countries. Non-aligned movement were just India, Indonesia, Egypt and Yugoslavia. Okay, and then slowly most of the African countries and many of the Middle East countries and South American countries joined non-aligned movement. These countries said that we do not want to be aligned with either Eastern Bloc or Western Bloc. We are non-aligned. And our Prime Minister, Mr. Jawaharlal Nehru, was one of the founders of this movement and a very important leader of the same. Also, the new terminology came, that three world order. Okay, we usually say that third world countries. You might have heard this term. Where did this come from? Okay, so it is said that these countries are first world, all the NATO and US countries, the capitalist countries. Then there are the second world countries that are communist, that are following the communist system of government and economy. And then there are the third world countries, that are the rest of the countries of the world. So some people say that this classification is based on economy, capitalist, communist and mixed or other forms. And some say it is based on the GDP or the development indices. So these countries are considered very much developed, these are medium developed and these are poorly developed. But now these criterias are changing. Okay, this is a very old classification. Don't go by this today. There is also problems in this classification. For example, see Pakistan here, although it is called a third world country, but it was supporting UK. It was supporting USA. It was a big time ally of USA. So you cannot say it. Actually, it belonged to the US and its allies, so Western Bloc. But then again, it was a third world country according to its economy. So there are some problems in this classification. It is a very rough criteria and classification, but you should know where this terminology came from. The three worlds: first world, second world and third world. So now we begin with the decade of 1960s. It started with the U-2 plane incident. It was a USA plane that was spying over USSR and it crashed, and the pilot was caught alive. And USSR said that America is spying over us, and unfortunately it happened just before the Paris summit. At this Paris summit, they were going to talk about de-escalation, to talk so that the Cold War the conflict could come down. But instead, due to this incident, the president of USA, Eisenhower, and Nikita Khrushchev, they did not even shake hands, and they did not talk about peace. In fact, the hostilities increased. Then in 1961, East Germany started building a wall around West Berlin. Okay, the wall was built around the city of West Berlin by East Germany, so that the city could be completely surrounded and no one could go from East Germany to West Germany. People living in East Germany did not want to live under the communist rule. They were escaping into West Germany via this Berlin. So to stop this migration, they built this wall around it. In 1962, Cuban Missile Crisis happened. This is one of the perhaps the most important event of Cold War, and the event where world was closest to a nuclear war. So it happened in 1962 in Cuba. Cuba is just near USA, near Florida, and it had undergone a revolution in 1959, bringing the communist leader Fidel Castro to power. This is Fidel Castro, and people still try to copy his style and swagger, but I don't think anyone has succeeded till date. He ruled Cuba for almost 50 years and he died last year in 2016. USSR had positioned ballistic missiles in 1962 there. See, this is Cuba. Okay, this is very near USA. You can see here, this is USA. So they had placed missiles here that could target almost the entire US, and they could attack anywhere. Washington, New York, Chicago, Miami, all the major cities of America came directly under the threat of Soviet nuclear missiles. So this was unacceptable to USA. What they did was they blockaded the entire island. They said that no ship can come and go to Cuba without our permission because you are bringing missiles to Cuba. So on the other hand, Soviet ships were coming to Cuba and they almost reached this blockade line, okay, where American ships were there, and both the ships were in front of each other, and the world could have gone to nuclear war with just the press of one button. Okay, this was the closest that the world was to the nuclear war because both the ships were nuclear capable and they were standing in front of each other. But fortunately, this was averted at the last moment and the nuclear war was averted in the nick of time. The president of USA by this time was John F. Kennedy, and the leader of USSR was Nikita Khrushchev. In 62, Sino-Soviet split happened. China and USSR, which were both communist countries and allies, they split due to ideological differences. Mao, who was the leader of China, he said that Soviet Union is not following the actual communism. According to him, they have been following some other form of communism which is not acceptable. This is not Marxism, this is not Leninism. This is what Mao said. Okay, there were some ideological differences between the two, so they both went their own ways. It is not that they started fighting with each other, but they did not support each other in a very coordinated manner. After this, USA took a huge advantage of this and they started to approach China, and finally in the next 10 years they had a diplomatic relation with China. In 1968 there was a Prague Spring. What do you mean by spring? It was reforms. Many reforms were carried out by the government in Prague and they were going away from the communist ideology. So USSR again sent its army and they crushed this Prague Spring, the Prague Uprising, very brutally. Now you have to tell me in comments that Prague is the capital of which country. Okay. Then there was the Vietnam War, the Indochina War, that was carrying on at a brutal scale in 1960s. Okay. As I told you earlier, there were two countries here. There were two sides. See, this was North Vietnam and this was South Vietnam. This North Vietnam was supported by People's Republic of China and USSR, the communist countries. And the South Vietnam was supported by USA, UK and other countries, mainly the USA. It had a capitalist government. So both these were fighting, North and South Vietnam. And finally, in 1975, North Vietnam defeated South Vietnam, and thus it can be said that USA was defeated for the first time, even though it was a proxy war, but still they were defeated. Now we come to 1970s. This was the time when Cold War de-escalated. There was some amount of peace, you can say. Why? Firstly, USA and China relations. In 1972, Richard Nixon, who was the then president, he was the first US president to visit China. They started diplomatic relations very soon after that. And so relations were improving with one communist country. On the other hand, the other communist country, that is USSR, the leader of the Eastern Bloc, talks were held between them. Strategic arms limitation talks. It was also called as SALT 1, okay, in 1973. What these talks did was that they decided on reducing the nuclear missiles. It is very good for the world, less nuclear missiles, less chances of nuclear war, and reducing anti-ballistic missiles. Okay, so these basically it was military de-escalation. So these were the SALT 1 talks and they were successful. Later there were SALT 2 talks in 1979, but they were unsuccessful. So although these talks were going on and there was some amount of de-escalation, but in 1979, what USSR did was that they sent their troops to Afghanistan to help the newly formed communist government. This angered the USA again. They said that again you are doing the old thing, you are trying to expand. You did it in Korea, you did it in Europe, and now you are trying to expand in South Asia, in Afghanistan, Pakistan, India. You can go anywhere. Again, that domino theory came in their mind. If Afghanistan becomes communist, Pakistan, Iran, any of these countries can go into communist hands. So USA started supporting Mujahideen, who were the rebels in that Afghanistan, and these Mujahideens they fought against the USSR army, and the Mujahideens were supported by guns, weapons, and anti-aircraft weapons especially. So this led to the end of detente. I forgot to tell you what detente is here. See, detente means cooperation. It means a cooling off of hostilities. So this is detente. It's a French word. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right. So end of detente or end of cooperation between the two countries, and again the Cold War became very much active, tensions escalated, and this was the beginning of 1980s. In this photograph you can see the President of United States, Ronald Reagan, meeting these Mujahideen in the Oval Office. So Oval Office is the office of United States President. Imagine Mujahideen, the same people who later on formed Al-Qaeda. Okay, they later formed Al-Qaeda and they were the part of Taliban as well. Those people are sitting inside the Oval Office meeting the President of United States. So in 1980s, Ronald Reagan became the President of USA in 1980. Right after that, they boycotted the Moscow Olympics, and all the Western Bloc countries boycotted it. So again in 1984, when the Olympics were held in Los Angeles in America, the Russia, the USA and all the Warsaw Pact countries, they boycotted these Olympics. Ronald Reagan, as soon as he became the president, he increased military spending immensely. And USSR could not keep up due to its failing economy. They did not have the money to develop more missiles, to develop new technologies. But America had the money because America's economy was very strong and the capitalist economy had been increasing at a very good pace. He brought in a new initiative called the Strategic Defense Initiative. It was a plan by the United States to equip satellites with nuclear missiles. Media called this plan the Star Wars plan. They said that not only just missiles, we will have nuclear weapons in space, so that we won't need any missiles. You could just bring your satellite over any city in USSR and bomb it directly. This was a very drastic step. USSR was very much scared of this because they did not have the technology or the money or the research to do the same thing. Up till now, what happened was whatever technology USA developed, they had similar technologies, and in some cases they even had better technology, especially in 50s and 60s. But now they were lagging behind. They could not have done this for the next 10 years. So USSR was very much scared because now the balance would change. But ultimately USA also did not go through with it, because they also found it to be very costly and very dangerous. So they also did not complete this. There were no missiles in space anytime. So now we come to 1983. In 1983, there was a large NATO military exercise in Europe. It was called Able Archer. And it was such a large exercise that USSR thought that this is an actual army invasion. And they readied their nuclear weapons and they were almost going to fire the nuclear weapons. But again, just like Cuban Missile Crisis, brinkmanship, at the last moment, they decided not to fire their missiles, and thus the world was saved from nuclear annihilation once again. In 1983, South Korean civilian plane was shot down by the USSR over its territory. They said that this civilian plane was spying over us, but it only had civilians, and all of them died in this crash. This also increased tensions. Finally, in 1985, Mikhail Gorbachev became the new General Secretary of Communist Party of USSR. It means he became the new leader of USSR, and this is the time after Gorbachev coming to power that the Cold War started to end. So the end of Cold War is mainly due to two reasons. First, reforms brought by Gorbachev, and secondly, the economy. Okay, there are many other reasons, small reasons, but these are the two main reasons. The communist economy simply could not keep up with the high growth rates of capitalist ones. The economy of USA had been growing very strongly since the past 30 years. On the other hand, the economy of USSR was going downwards. See, capitalist economies by their nature are efficient and progressive. On the other hand, the communist economies, they are centrally controlled. It means government is controlling all the major industries. Everything is controlled by the government. The steel industry, the railways, the aeroplanes, and even like small manufacturing is controlled by the government. So this was the state of Soviet economy. So in long run, any government enterprise will become inefficient. It will not be very much productive. It will not be as productive as a private enterprise. This is the rule of nature. This is what we have seen in 100 years. It is the practical example. Okay. Now, ideally, they both have to be equal. If you give the same funding, if you give the same machinery to two factories, but if one factory, if you say to the workers that if you do not perform, you will be fired, and on the other hand, on the other factory, you say that whatever you do, you will not be fired. So you can imagine which one will be more productive and more efficient. So this is the problem with the communist form of economy. And in the long run, it becomes less efficient and less productive. So this is the reason that this economy started to fail. So Gorbachev decided to bring in reforms. Now, why did Gorbachev bring in reforms? Did he want to break up the Soviet Union? Did he want to end the Cold War? No. He brought in the reforms to make this communist economy more efficient, to bring this communist economy, his country's communist economic system out of this rut. And this is why he brought the reforms called Glasnost and Perestroika, so that the Soviet Union could be energized again. It could become a superpower again, and it could compete with USA equally. Glasnost means openness. Remember this with the word glass. Okay. Glasnost, it gave freedom of speech to people. Earlier, you were not allowed to criticize the government. You were not allowed to get magazines, newspapers from outside. No news from other countries was allowed to be broadcasted without the permission of the government. All these things were now removed. Okay, media censorship was very much eased. Also, earlier records were declassified. All the records in the archives of Soviet Union could now be accessed. Earlier, there was nothing like RTI that you want this data from 10 years back and you can get it. No, there was nothing like RTI, but now there was some form of declassified records. Public could access them. So this brought huge changes in the Russian civil society. People started to speak up against the government. They started to demand more freedom. They started to demand more reforms. On the other hand, there was Perestroika. Perestroika means restructuring or reformation. This part of reforms, it dealt with the political and economic structures. So Gorbachev brought in elections, foreign investment in business, privately owned businesses. Why have I put this star marked in elections? It does not mean that Gorbachev suddenly started general elections in Soviet Union, that we have MPs and we will have MLAs. No. What happened was, in Soviet Union there is Soviet. Every village, every city has a Soviet. Soviet simply means a council. So the members of this council were earlier decided by the party. There was no election. Simply the higher command of the party will tell that okay, in this city there will be these 10 people who are members of the Soviet. But now they said that, for example, if there are 100 members of the party in that city, there will be elections among these 100 people. There will be 10 people selected out of these 100. So we will not tell you, the high command will not tell you. There will be elections at the local level. So this is one party elections. This is not like multi-party democracy in India. No, there is only still one party only. That is the Communist Party of USSR. But now they have little more of democratic reforms. Then privately owned business, as I told you earlier, all the businesses were owned by state, by the government, but now they allowed some form of small businesses. So this perestroika led to more demand for reforms, and this two reforms changed the Russian society forever. How the Iron Curtain was raised. Now, due to these perestroika and glasnost, all these satellite states, they also demanded reforms, and they demanded independence. They demanded change in the communist governments. And in 1989, there were demonstrations and protests all over these satellite states. There were peaceful revolutions in most countries except Romania, and these revolutions changed the government. They toppled the communist governments in almost all these in the satellite states. What are the satellite states? Poland, East Germany, Czech Republic, Slovakia, Hungary. This was one country, okay, Czechoslovakia, Romania, Bulgaria. In all these countries, there were revolutions in 89, and except Romania, they were peaceful. In Romania, they captured the ruling communist dictator Nicolae Ceausescu, and they shot him with a gun on live television. Okay, so in 89, all these states became independent. So you can understand that this is Eastern Europe, the area of buffer zone. This is now independent again. In 1989, after East Germany, after Berlin Wall fell, East and West Germany reunited in 1990, and many people call this as the end of Cold War. That is the fall of Berlin Wall in 1989. Also in December 1989, the then president of USA, George Bush Sr., he said that the Cold War is over. But many historians say that the Cold War was over in 1991. Why 1991? Because in December 91, USSR dissolved, and all the 15 sub-national Soviets, they formed their own sovereign countries. There were 15 different countries which were part of USSR. They all disintegrated. So you can see here in this map, see Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, Belarus, Ukraine, Moldova. These were all part of USSR earlier. They were not independent countries. They were part of USSR. They were sub-national. Although they had their own governments, they had their own SSRs, Soviet Socialist Republics, but they were still part of USSR, and these were the satellite states. So first these broke away, Poland, Czech Republic, the Eastern European countries, and then in 1991 these countries also broke away and made their own independent country. So Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan and other countries of Central Asia are also part of this. So USSR broke down into 15 countries, and Russia was the largest of these countries. While all this was happening from 85 to 91, perestroika, glasnost, USA started talks with USSR for de-escalation. They were very happy with these reforms. They said to Gorbachev that yes, this is the correct direction that you should be heading in. And due to this de-escalation, they also limited the nuclear weapons. They signed a treaty which limited the nuclear weapons. USSR removed its army from Afghanistan. So now you can see all the causes of problems between these two countries are gone. USSR is not expanding, all the satellite states are independent, there is no expansionism, there is no military adventures anywhere in the world. So now there is no cause for conflict between USA and USSR, and finally in 1991 the Cold War is over. What was the aftermath of this Cold War, end of Cold War? Now the world was unipolar. Earlier it was bipolar. It means there were two big powers, USSR and USA. Now there was only one, USA. Russian economy suffered very badly after the breakup of USSR. There was severe recession because they suddenly changed their economic system. There was huge upheavals in political system. Some historians at that point of time in 1991, they said that now there will be no war in the world. There will only be peace because the reason for war is over. There are no two global big powers fighting each other. But they were proved wrong very soon, because in Yugoslavia, the old Republic of Yugoslavia, there was war. Now it was broken into different parts. So these countries were fighting each other for dominance, and this Yugoslavian wars went on in the 1990s. Also later there was war in Iraq earlier in 91, then again in 2003, then in Afghanistan in 2001. So war is going on in the world. Now there is Syrian civil war. So it is not that history is over or war will not be there. The threat of nuclear war is still present, although it is very much less than the Cold War period, but it is still there. If any two countries go to war, nuclear weapons can be used because many more countries have nuclear weapons today. if you want to get more knowledge about the Cold War, I suggest you watch these videos as well. Firstly, why did the USSR collapse? Why was NATO formed? Korean War, Vietnam War, and fall of Berlin Wall. You can see all of these are related to this Cold War somehow, and we have made separate lectures on each of them. You can find these in the history playlist of our channel, so please go and give them a watch. If you liked this video, please like, share and subscribe, and you can give your feedback in the comments below. Have a good day. Thank you.